Welcome to a muzzled chat. Today is going to be a great conversation. We have Kelsey. She is a Lyme warrior. And as I was breaking the ice pre-show here a bit, I just felt like we needed to just kick things off. We're having great conversation. And one of the things that really amped me up to have this conversation today was when she stated to me that she was in 99% in remission from her Lyme disease. And she definitely has had a battle, and she's here to share the good, bad, and the ugly, everything in between. But I'm very much excited to dive into what, in fact, has helped Kelsey. And it seems as though that is even transitioning. It's even impacted your life. It set you on a whole other path. So without further ado, Kelsey, welcome to Muzzled Chat. How are you doing today?
Hi, good. Yeah, thank you for having me. I am doing, well, let's say just way better than what I was doing. I'm excited to share with you guys kind of my journey and how I got to where I am, and just kind of explaining all of that to you.
That's awesome. Well, we are honored to have you. And as you know, it's just so important that we sound the alarm on this horrific disease.
Yes.
And yeah, not just for those that are afflicted so we can have the proper support, but so we can get better testing, diagnosing, treatment protocols, a path to healing and health and wellness and getting people's lives back, even financial assistance through it all. And the simple fact, we'll talk about it ad nauseum until people grasp the epidemic levels it truly is at. Think about it for a second, everyone. The CDC reported 500,000 of North Americans alone contracted Lyme, and that's by the CDC standard. And the CDC standard is defective. It's faulty. It's wrong. It needs revamping. So this is the most misdiagnosed, undiagnosed disease known to man. Based on those facts I just stated, you must know that it is in the millions. It is in the hundreds of millions across the world. And a lot of doctors, more and more doctors, are having the confidence, finally, to stand up, and the findings and documentation to stand up and state more people more than likely have this spiral key than don't have this spiral key.
Yes.
So whether you yourself are feeling entirely well or not, everyone should be questioning whether or not they might have this horrific disease. I confidently say bioweapon. Doesn't take much research to look back to Plum Island and the experiments that they were doing dating back to the Cold War, using our taxpayer dollars, not just on ticks, but the experiments they were doing on fleas, mosquitoes, and flies, essentially playing God, trying to create bioweapon warfare. And anyway, don't mean to get too distracted there. So
no, but I mean, you're perfectly right, though. I think that this has become such a huge ordeal that just people don't understand it. I was one of those people where I thought Lyme disease was, achy joints and muscles, and until I actually got it and researched it every single day. I mean, I was researching 6-7 hours a day on how I could heal myself because I was not getting the answers from doctors. I saw multiple doctors. Infectious disease wouldn't even see me. I was a neurologist because I was having so many neurological issues. And my neurologist was even like, oh, I don't know a thing about Lyme disease. And it really blew my mind because this has been such, I mean, I live in central Pennsylvania. I am in the hot spot for Lyme disease. And I could not find a doctor in my area, in my network, that knew a thing about Lyme disease. I had to spell Babesia, which is a co-infection for Lyme disease. I had to spell that to a doctor so they could Google it. And
get out of here.
Yeah, So that's when I started researching because I couldn't find the answers, and I was going downhill. I was on, I was on doxycycline,
Mm.
which is like the first antibiotic they give you right away. Um, and I was not getting any better. So
Wow.
thank God for, doing my own research, because I don't know where I'd be right now had I not. And if I
Right.
put all my trust in these doctors who are completely ignorant to the fact that Lyme disease can be worse than, a 10-day round of antibiotics, or even a 3-week round antibiotic course. It was a rough start for sure, and definitely opened my eyes to a lot.
Well, that definitely just weighed on my heartstrings, Kelsey, because it impacts everyone a little differently, but so many of us end up with neurological issues. So for
Yeah.
you having to essentially become your own expert, your own
Yeah.
doctor
Yes.
amongst
A month.
neurological
Yeah.
issues, like
Uh-huh.
it got to a point I couldn't even read. Like I could sit there
Yeah.
and read a page, but it wasn't retaining.
You can't
Words were just
comprehend.
yeah, exactly.
So,
That's
like, brain fog was one of my worst symptoms, and I'd say like I'm 99% in remission, because I still have a little bit of brain fog. I still
mhm.
lose track of like what I'm talking about, or I have to read a paragraph over and over again because I'm not comprehending it. And I'm not so sure if that's something that might, will ever go away. I don't know if the
Mm.
damage is done or what, but it was a tough road. I, like you said, couldn't read. It's just it was a
Wow.
whirlwind of neurological issues, and
Yeah.
I believe Lyme was a big part of it, but also the co-infections that
Right.
um, doctors don't realize that can happen with Lyme, is the co-infections.
So Pennsylvania truly is a hot spot. I
It
actually
is.
grew up in Pennsylvania as a little kid, and I was younger than 7, and I attribute the disease all the way back to then. And I went over
Mhm.
30 years without, just misdiagnosis after misdiagnosis. And it wasn't until things ended up chronic, unfortunately, we finally were able to find out the root of the issue. And that ended up being a big blessing. So it kind of just goes without saying, the earlier people can detect, obviously, that you could limit
Yeah.
the extent of the damage and
Yes.
long term and gain more life back. However, I don't want anyone out there that has had a similar path to me be disheartened with the recovery, because it's still worth fighting for. And our God
Absolutely.
given bodies are miraculous as
Yes.
to what they can
Sure.
rebound from. And when you
Absolutely.
get all the crap out that's hindering it from thriving, and you start feeding it the things on a cellular level, the nutrition and everything, like nutrients it
Yeah.
craves, miracles take place. It's
Yep.
really cool. So
Absolutely.
how long do you do you recall, obviously, encounters with ticks? Did you ever bullseye? Not that it even really matters,
So
because
yeah. I mean, growing up, I was a tomboy. I was always outside. I was always doing a lot of stuff. I never had a tick actually bite me. I found them on me, and whatnot. I never, not to my knowledge, had I ever had a tick bite me until I contracted Lyme disease. Um, Now I have not been fighting this for many years. Like some people go undiagnosed for many, many years. I
right.
saw the tick, I had the bite, I had the symptoms. I started treating almost right away. Um, so actually, July 1st, a year ago, almost,
Okay.
I was picking black raspberries, and I didn't realize that I had a tick possibly in my hair, that had made its way down to my stomach and had bitten onto me. And now here's the thing that kind of shocks everybody, because they expect, to get Lyme disease, a tick has to be on you and feed off of you and gorge themselves and whatnot. But in my situation, the tick looked like it had just latched on.
Mm-hmm.
It was not full. It had not been, in my opinion, there for a while, but I believe it was hanging on for like at least overnight. Um, because I pulled it off and I explained it to people. I pulled it off like you would pull a fuzzy off of a t-shirt. It came
Oh
right
wow.
off. It didn't leave a mark, nothing. I didn't think anything of it. I flushed it down the toilet.
Wow.
Um, and then I never got a bullseye, nothing. I just,
Right.
5 days later, I had the worst fever of my life. And I
Wow.
didn't know what was happening. I was all achy. I felt like I was getting sick real bad, flu. And thankfully, my boyfriend was like, "Didn't you just pull a tick off you the other day?" And I was like, "You're right."
Wow. Yeah.
And then that's where, I went in to get tested. And that's kind of where the medical system started to fail me right then and there.
Wow.
I went in with every single symptom with
Yes.
the knowledge of pulling a tick off of me, and they waited almost a week to prescribe me doxycycline. So I
Wow.
the day I started doxycycline, I was in the emergency room the next day with neurological symptoms where my face went numb. It wasn't Bell's palsy, but my face went numb. I lost my vision. Um,
Wow.
I started shaking and trembling like a leaf. I couldn't walk.
Wow.
My legs were like a baby deer. Um, yeah, and then it was all downhill from there. And of course, doctors were telling me I was having an anxiety attack, and it was just anxiety based. And
Oh my gosh.
turns out I had babesia, which is similar to malaria. And
Wow. You found that out through blood work?
I found that, yeah. So I saw a doctor, and I was convinced myself it was Lyme neuroborreliosis, which is like the neurological Lyme disease. But then, I joined the Facebook group. I believe that's where we met, the Lyme disease support
Yes.
group.
Yes.
I joined that group and I kind of laid out my symptoms there, and people were like, "Oh, it's babesia, like get tested." So I went into my doctor's and I was like, "Hey, like I want this test. I want the Bartonella test and I want the babesia test."
Hmm.
Um, and she was like, "Okay, I don't know how to order those, but I'll figure it out." She's never
Wow.
had to order them, and my babesia test came back. I was high in the counts, and it was 100% positive. And I mean, my Lyme disease test came back, no doubt, positive.
I don't understand how there ends up being a practicing doctor in Pennsylvania
Yeah, my
that
thought
doesn't
too.
understand these things.
Yeah, exactly. That was my biggest complication, is because, they're the professionals, and you put your trust into these professionals, and not to bash, like they're a
Proclaimed,
great,
proclaimed. And
yeah.
that's where actually, like, man, to connect some dots, it all makes
Mhm.
sense, folks. Like the bioweapon and then the creation, Western medicine, as we've said
They're,
many times
yeah,
before, it's all about business. It's not about health and wellness. They are indoctrinated, these family
yes,
physicians, to feed big pharma, give
yes,
you band-aids, not look to the root of the issues.
yeah,
And it's wild how they give them this complex. Everyone knows that doctor complex, that you come in with information, like
yeah.
it's almost like they're insulted,
Mm-hmm.
like
That you're
and they
questioning.
will shut you down. They know better. No, not all of them, right? Because so many
No,
of the real good ones will see the folly of it all. And so then they'll realize, wow, I'll go through remission of the indoctrination. I'm going to continue my education in naturopathics and homeopathics and actually figure out, and they'll fulfill the actual definition of practicing medicine and
mm-hmm.
become really either really good in cancer treatment or Lyme literate in treatment,
Mm-hmm.
and so many other things. So we as a people, through awareness of Lyme and the pandemic that just took place, I mean, you choose it, you choose, but it really highlights the importance that we restructure things to
Yes,
operate on behalf of the benefit of we, the people, not these big corporations, not big
yes,
pharma, not the politics of the world, and definitely not the globalists of the world that
Mm-hmm.
are doing all these evil, nefarious things to our detriment. I
Yeah.
digress. We could go on that in real depth, but I just felt with how you were saying that it's a moment to capture the system, not just how it's failed us, how it's intentionally been designed
Yeah.
not to our benefit.
Yes.
So it's important in your situation. There's just so many things. It's like, oh, don't flush the tick down the toilet. Send that into
Yes.
the
Keep
lab.
it and send it. Absolutely.
Yes. And then, okay, if you're thinking it's Lyme, don't go to a family doctor that
No.
doesn't know. Find, like, you could search and find a Lyme literate doctor around
Hmm.
you, or even start tapping in the community and the
But
resources and Lyme.org. And
But
yeah.
the thing about it is too is that like Lyme, the treatments for Lyme and whatnot is not covered through insurance. You cannot
Mhm.
find an insurance plan that covers Lyme
You're
disease
right.
treatment past the 10-21 day cycle of doxycycline, which is
Wow.
like for some
That's a
people
problem.
it is a huge problem, and that's kind of why like
Yes.
I'm I'm so about like bringing awareness to this is because I was one of those people where I could barely afford, and thank you mom for
Wow.
helping me because I would not have been able to afford to get treated because nothing was covered through insurance.
Wow.
Um, Aside from your visit to your primary care physician who was completely ignorant to the Lyme disease. I had to seek a functional medicine doctor who essentially was part of the reason I'm in remission. Um, I cried the first time I met him because here I am being gaslit by doctors upon doctors, and I go to see him and I sit down and he already knew the herbs I was taking. He knew the antibiotics I needed to be on. He kind of related to me in a way that like I finally felt seen and heard, and I stress that to everybody who gets diagnosed with Lyme disease or is even feeling a certain kind of way because functional medicine, it's not about like suppressing your symptoms. It's about getting to the root of the cause and fixing
Yes.
what's happening. And,
Yes.
like I said, if it was not for him, I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Oh my
So,
gosh. Well, I'm so grateful that you found someone like that, and that's
yeah,
obviously led to where you are at now. I really want to capture and try our best to home run what you brought up just a minute ago about the financing. I
yeah.
can't emphasize enough, like the awareness side, yes, to have the proper support, because it's two different things to have someone intentionally showing up on your behalf
Mm-hmm.
out of love to
Mm-hmm.
assist you, but assist you in a way that is not helpful, right? Because they're
Yeah.
not informed.
Yes.
So they're making you still out to be the issue. They're trying to encourage you to, oh, just push through, and if you just go to a job, then you're going to have the finances to work through it. And you're sitting there, I can't even function. I'm
I
like,
was,
your
yeah,
heart's in the
no,
right place, but you're not
you
getting
don't
it.
understand.
So then there's
Absolutely.
the others that love and that are there to support and get you
Mm-hmm.
through, that actually do their due diligence. They
Yes.
do their homework to the best of their ability, and they actually, in fact, show up in effective ways. That,
Yeah.
because I'm sorry, this other one could even be a family member and have the right intentions. But for us, depending on the place we're at, we may even need to set a healthy boundary with that individual, and they don't
Yeah.
even understand it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, hey, to my own health, like, because I get drugged down every time I interact, and I can't afford to spike up my emotional, because I could just feel the Lyme overtake me
Yeah.
when there's that type of emotional turmoil. So we really need that support group.
You
So,
do.
but that's beside the point of the finances. The finances become a
Mhm.
weight and a burden that even to this day, 4 5 years in now, I mean, part of it, I'm sure, is the path God has sent me on. And, I know it would be more lucrative to going back, building homes, swinging a hammer. My bank account would do good. But knowing what I know now, knowing how many are
How can
suffering,
you? Yeah.
how can I go
Mhm.
back to that selfish life? I
Absolutely.
have to be here and sound the alarm to the, like,
Hmm.
to till things are fixed or I'm out of breath. you know?
Yeah.
So financing is a huge issue. How is it, just based on that stat, 500,000 Americans having CDC Lyme positive? That's more than breast cancer and HIV combined,
Yeah.
and not actual viable treatment options covered by insurance. That
Mhm.
is downright criminal, you know? That is
Yeah,
not
I
good.
agree. I absolutely agree. And I want to bring this to light too, because this is something that I found. I didn't utilize it because I was at the tail end of my treatment, but
Yeah.
there's a foundation. It's called Sam's Spoons. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
Sam's Spoons.
Sam, SAMS, Sam's Spoons, like fork in a spoon. So my functional medicine doctor is a huge part of Sam's Spoons. They're actually a a Lyme disease foundation that helps people financially, that you can put in an application for, and they send you some money to help pay with bills. And I didn't
Wow.
utilize it, like I said, but that it's kind of like an under acknowledged foundation. And
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know, maybe that might be something that some people can look into and
Yes,
donate towards, or
absolutely.
even put an application in for. But yeah, they offer
Appreciate
financial
you.
assistance for Lyme disease. And
Appreciate you bringing that up. That very
yeah,
well could help a lot of people, and it potentially could help other people not knowing how to show up and help, maybe
yeah,
even donate.
exactly. And that was one thing I asked for on Facebook for my birthday, was people donated to Sam Spoons or any kind of Lyme disease research, because it is so
Wow, that's
underfunded,
beautiful.
obviously. But
Okay, so you end up with this amazing doctor. It led
mhm.
to your Lyme positive diagnosis. You found many other co-infections.
Yeah, so I learned through my PCP that I was Lyme positive. And of course, through my demanding of the Babesia test, I learned I was positive through that. But seeing my functional medicine doctor, we took the Vibrant test, which is the test that tests you for many, many things. So I was positive for 3 strains of Lyme disease, Babesia, which is the malaria, and anaplasmosis. So
Mm,
I had all 3 of those, and I believe the worst of it was from the Babesia. That's, I believe, kind of gave me the worst of my symptoms. The neurological trembling, dizziness, neurological stuff. I was on an anti-malaria and 3 antibiotics at one time for 6 months to even really get to be able to live essentially a normal life again. I was out of work for 3 or 4 months, and I was housebound. I couldn't hardly get off the couch. I couldn't even scroll on my phone because my face, I'd go so dizzy and my face would go numb.
ooh,
Could hardly walk, couldn't keep my head up. I wanted to roll around like an infant. My neck was just not strong enough. My jaw wanted to
right.
dangle like a zombie. Like
Oh my
it
gosh.
was crazy. And I never thought Lyme could, and the co-infections could do this kind of stuff, but they are powerful. They're not something to mess
100%.
around with.
So that doctor ended up putting you on a few, like, was that the mainly it? A few antibiotics?
So that was kind of like to tackle the worst of it. So essentially Lyme
And
disease they have 3 forms of the spirochetes, the round bodies, and the biofilms. I'm sure you're familiar with all of this.
yeah.
Um, the biofilms are like an accumulation of the round bodies. They come together and create this film around them that's almost impenetrable by antibiotics.
Yeah.
Some antibiotics can penetrate them, some cannot. Doxycycline, unfortunately, cannot. So that's something that blows my mind when people are like, "Oh, I'm on doxycycline for Lyme." I was like, "What else are you on?"
Right.
Because doxycycline is never enough. It might be enough to kind of get the bacteria down to a level where your immune system can take over and suppress it, but it's such a science that you know, I understand why some doctors don't understand it, is because there is so much to know about it. And like I said, I did 6-7 hours of research. You know, I being housebound and nothing else to do, I was determined to find a way to get better. So I learned that those biofilms, you need what's essentially called a biofilm buster to
Yes.
break up those biofilms, so that your antibiotics or your killer herbs like cryptolepis, Japanese knotweed, sweet wormwood,
Yes.
all those could kind of kill your bacteria.
Right.
You know, and there's so much more that goes into that as well. Like, you know, there's multiple forms of biofilm busters, and then you have to take binders in order to bind to those toxins and
To
eliminate
clear things out. Yeah.
yeah. And so many forms of detoxing, which is mandatory when you're killing this bacteria. You know, I'm sure you're very familiar with detoxing methods and the standard protocol with killing Lyme disease.
Wow.
What do you know about that whole protocol? Do you have to do any of that stuff for?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we've gone around and around and around, and we've
Uh-huh.
tried different mixtures at different times. And right now, yeah, I'm using some cell core binders. We're
Yeah.
actually rehoned in on killing mold, and I'm nebulizing.
Yeah.
I'm actually using a frequency mat. I'm using a LifeWave X39 patch. I'd have to go over there and show you all the dang freaking tinctures. I'm actually glad though that, I mean, at one point I was on a protocol where I was taking over 40 capsules in the AM,
Yeah.
27 in the PM, and a whole slew throughout the day, and then
Mhm.
tinctures even in between. It was a full-time job
It
just to
is.
keep up. And then it was up to me to like notify the docs when I was running low with weeks in advance so they could order, make sure I never ran out. It
Yeah.
was overwhelming. And then I could only it was all I could do to eat to be able to stomach this much of just herbs and medicines and
It's a lot.
tinctures and
It's
supplements.
it's such a commitment. My cabinet
Yeah.
looks like the
Oh my
pharmacy. If
gosh.
you, you know,
Right.
it's so
And
many.
then I transitioned into IVs and went through months and months and months
Oh,
of IVs,
huh?
and everything seemed to help to an extent, but nothing, and no particular one thing seemed to really break me out of the woods, but all these things accumulatively have been leading me in the right direction. But what I am grateful for is I'm ending up with this network and all these connections that I feel we're actually now kind of honing in on some more clear-cut solutions for
Mm-hmm.
folks. Now, I want to actually notate, because you mentioned it was like a year and a half that you were
Yeah.
on three separate. What were those? What were
So I was on an anti-malaria due to babesia. It's a
anti-malaria?
yellow liquid. It's called atovaquone. It's a yellow liquid. It looks like paint. It's thick. If you could picture like a yellow neon paint, that's what it looked like.
Interesting.
I had to swallow 3 teaspoons of it a day. Now it's cherry flavored, and I say that in quotes because it definitely did not taste like
Yeah.
cherry. Um,
Okay.
but that was my anti-malaria for babesia, and then in combination with the anti-malaria, you have to take another antibiotic because the anti-malaria only killed like the one form.
Mm,
So I had to be taking an antibiotic in order to kind of combat the Lyme as well, which was
okay.
azithromycin. I'm sure everyone's heard of azithromycin, especially if they've been in the Lyme disease world, but those kind of go hand in hand together. And of course, I
Yeah.
was also taking doxycycline. My functional medicine doctor continued me on that throughout this whole course.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, and then I was also taking cefuroxime. I think I'm saying that right. It was kind of, it was the one that pushed everything I would say over the edge, but it kind of pushed my healing a lot quicker. Like there were some symptoms
Okay.
that would not go away with the others, where
Yeah.
cefuroxime kind of took, I wouldn't say took them away, but lessened greatly. And then,
Okay.
like I was telling you earlier, I owe probably my biggest healing to the rewiring of my brain. Um,
Yes.
let's talk about that, because I'm kind of, that's something I'm
Yes.
excited about, because so many
Well,
people.
that with it seemed like you put in a lot of work. I'll be anxious, whatever. We can
Yeah,
dive into it after the rewiring of the brain, but it
no, no,
seemed
go
like you
ahead.
did a lot of homework and
Yes.
things on a homeopathic level, maybe herbs and things that nature that led and assisted potentially even the rewiring of the brain.
Yeah. So I don't know if
Hmm.
I mentioned this live or not, but one of my biggest passions is foraging, finding, living off the land, finding edibles, mushrooms, and medicinal plants and everything like that. That's definitely a huge thing for me. And look, see, now I have Lyme brain. This is where my brain kind of has
You're
trouble.
right.
Yeah, you know
You're
what I
right.
mean? This Lyme brain. Now I completely lost track of what I was gonna say. It's just
So foraging.
okay, yeah, yeah, no, thank you. Yeah. So foraging is a huge passion of mine. And when I got Lyme disease, I realized that a lot of people depend on herbal stuff, the stuff that they don't need prescriptions for, because they, going back to the financial status of Lyme disease, they don't have the insurance coverage to cover these prescriptions, or the treatments, or they don't have anyone that is a professional to help them.
Right.
So they depend a lot on herbals.
Yes.
And it kind of took my passion for medicinal plants to a whole nother level. And
Yes.
I relied a lot on um, herbals to get me through what I was going through. Through my research in the first 2 weeks, I started taking cryptolepsis, which is a plant from Africa that they use to treat malaria, which is also extremely beneficial for Lyme. It's one of the
Wow.
top killers for Lyme disease.
Mm.
Japanese knotweed, which in Pennsylvania most people can find it in their backyards. Well, I wouldn't
Wow.
say backyards, but um, it's a huge plant around here in Pennsylvania that is another big killer for Lyme. And
Mm.
I thankfully started taking a combination of the knotweed, the cryptolepsis, the tinctures, and cat's claw, which is another great thing for kind of neurologically as well for Lyme disease. But
Yes. Yes.
if you're familiar with it, but I didn't find out I had babesia until 3 weeks after starting these tinctures. And like I said, the cryptolepsis is essentially an anti-malaria. And because I was taking those, I started to kind of start healing myself before I even knew I had babesia and whatnot. But
Wow.
I do owe a lot to the herbals for sure.
Right.
Um, and the supplements that you're lacking, especially what Lyme pulls from you, and everything like that. Just getting
I want.
my levels back up too was
Yeah.
huge.
I wanna ask because the listeners are unaware, and you keep looking over your shoulder. So, the
Oh,
listeners are
so,
unaware that you got four beautiful dogs.
well,
That
I do, but I'm actually looking over at my cabinet that has all of my medicine in it,
oh
because
really?
I have the doors open and I'm just looking at everything in there and what's kind of just poking out at me and reminding me, like, hey, like, don't forget about me type thing. And
Oh,
then,
I
as you
see.
say about a
Yeah,
dog, I have my oldest boy coming and putting his head in my lap right now.
that's awesome.
So you talking? I saw yours too. Your
Oh
dog.
man, they've helped me. They've helped me
Yeah,
tremendously. It's we all could learn something from these animals. They're the
I
masters
guess.
of love and loyalty, and we're just blessed to have such companions.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, and we will definitely get back on the whole herbal and this new path this whole experience has put you on. But
Yeah.
let's really hone in. I like where you were going with the rewiring of your brain,
Yes.
because it's crucial for everyone in this life, to be honest, because I feel we've all, not knowing, we've been programmed through the education systems and, the movies and the medias in huge ways now for generations. And once again, to our detriment, not to our benefit, to
Yeah.
zone out and football and just all these things where it seems like we're living free, open, our choosing, our lives, but we're really not. We've really been put into a box.
Yeah.
And it just becomes proof, like with how blindly and trusting we've been in white lab coats for so long, and we've gotten away from the thousands and thousands of years of folks tapping into, real remedies that cure
Mhm.
within the body, like it supports and the body heals itself. So,
Yeah.
but it's
Absolutely.
more rewiring. It's in that kind of literal, yeah, how do I even say it? In the material way, it's rewiring in the kind of
Spiritual,
emotional,
emotionally, yeah.
spiritual
Spiritually,
way,
emotionally, physically, mentally.
seeing,
Absolutely.
changing the life lens a bit,
Hmm.
not being the victim of your circumstance, even
Yes.
though, yes,
Absolutely.
biowarfare, 100%, we can
Yeah.
acknowledge, boom, I'm a victim of biowarfare. This is a bioweapon.
Hmm.
However, not allowing yourself to become this thing
Yeah.
and have yourself be beating this thing. So anyway, I've talked too much. I want to hear you diving into the
You're
whole
okay.
rewiring of the brain.
So, yeah, I had these symptoms that I just could not suppress. I didn't know what was happening. I couldn't figure out why. And I was afraid every time a symptom would pop up that, oh my gosh, my symptoms are coming back. I'm going to start getting worse or going downhill or what's happening. I walked on eggshells all the time. I talked to myself about my healing. I was afraid. And I think that is kind of a mindset that you have to essentially find your way out of, because your brain is so powerful, and the way that you think, you know, they say what you think about is what you put out into the universe. I don't know if you've heard this term. It's a big thing right now, but if you put it out into the universe, you get it back. You get that back. It's kind of like foretelling your future and whatnot. So
The
I was,
power of the tongue and
yeah.
self
Uh-huh.
mastery and in your subconscious and where your mind's at, all of
You're
that is so
absolutely.
it's more important than we know or could grasp.
Exactly. And I know this is a term that a lot of people are familiar with, but they don't understand the concept, the severity of it, I guess I should say. But the brain gut connection, you
Ooh,
know,
right.
that's, think about that. You're here telling yourself, I'm not getting better. I'm going to die, or something's wrong with me. I can't. This brain to gut connection, um, you know, healing, and especially autoimmune stuff, is a lot of times in your gut. And that's a huge thing too. You got to be feeding you. I'm sure too, if you have Lyme, to stay away from grains and sugar and alcohol and caffeine and whatnot, because a lot of healing lies in your gut as well. Putting the right
Yes.
foods in your body,
Yes.
getting your microbiome under control,
Yes.
and the brain plays a lot into that. So, rewiring it could be simple things too, like uh, how you introduce yourself. I have Lyme disease. Like, you're instantly owning that you have Lyme disease, and it's become who you are. When in reality, you're not. You don't have Lyme disease. You are fighting Lyme disease.
Yes.
That's kind of small things like that where you have to retrain your brain and tell yourself you're getting better, you're gonna get through this. Just daily affirmations that this is not going to be the rest of your life. You're working towards treating it. The positive attitude is
100%. It's
huge. It's huge.
it's crucial. And as you say that, I could see it, to any listener out there that is like me, I'm just a stubborn mule. I can see the past me, hear you say what you say, and I'm kind of
Mhm.
rolling my eyes, and then it's one ear and out the other, and it's like, yeah, okay,
That was me. Yeah.
like it's gonna make that big of a difference. Like, come on, give me more direct solutions to my issues. But
Uh-huh.
you're speaking truth,
Yes.
and there's a difference. It's almost like we're beating around the bush of an individual, in their mind, in their soul, in their being. Do you in fact accept this illness is forever? This is what it is? Or do you in fact want to beat this? Do you
Yes.
genuinely want to overcome this and
Yes.
beat this? And
Absolutely.
I won't lie, there were times like I just didn't see a way out. In a
Hmm.
sense,
I was there.
I
Yeah.
I accepted my fate. I
Yeah.
genuinely wanted to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
I literally tried to even do so. God put people in my life in certain things and situations, like, and we might could dive into the details of that in a future episode, to save me from myself.
Hmm.
So it wasn't until I started speaking more in that manner of, hi, I'm James, I'm kicking Lyme's ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, I mean, yeah, what a weird introduction, but
Well, yeah, but
it's just what we're trying to grasp, right?
uh-huh.
Like
Yeah.
with it, for lack of better words, just this more positive outlook on
Mhm.
recovery. Just like, you know what, even though I'm having a rough day, there's a positive indicator that the treatment is working, because I
Yes.
wouldn't be hurting this way
Yes.
without this protocol. Like,
Mhm.
hallelujah. This is actually progress. Even though I feel worse, I am
Uh-huh.
healing. And to continually have that type of mindset and rewiring of the brain really is the
Yeah.
shift that leads into the breakthrough.
And that's
Yeah.
like you said, I was at the same point that you were at. I was so disheartened. I had lost faith. I had 4 emergency room doctors tell me that my symptoms were not related to Lyme, that I was just having anxiety. 4 emergency room doctors, and one even told me that chronic Lyme didn't exist. And
I
thank goodness
I would
I had,
have their license.
I
Like,
trust me,
I'd give them an opportunity to humble themselves and really
Mhm.
educate themselves. But
Mhm.
yeah, they're, as
I
far as
just
I'm concerned, they're part of the problem.
1,000%. And I'm lucky that I had a witness. My boyfriend was there with
Wow.
me to see how these doctors essentially put everything aside because, in my opinion, they were ignorant to it all. They don't know much about it.
Right.
The doctor tried to
Right.
convince me that my symptoms weren't babesia related. I was just anxiety. And they, at one point, they even made me take anxiety medicine before I left the hospital. And
Wow.
it just absolutely blew my mind. But it got to a point where I was hopeless. I couldn't find the help that I needed, and the symptoms I was having, I felt like death would have been better than going through the rest of this
Right.
my entire life. And
Right.
so I was absolutely there. And the whole rewiring of the brain, I'll say it over and over again, was probably one of the things that I owe my biggest healing to. And I've seen people post on like the Lyme disease page that we're a part of about mending your mentality, but there are a lot of people that, how could you say that? I'm going through all of this. How could this, why is this happening to me? Like, how could you be positive in this situation? I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. How can you be
Yeah.
positive in a situation where you feel like you're dying? But it's,
Will feel like, or literally are. I know
yeah, yeah.
countless that, uh, we actually had a rest in peace on one of these Lyme groups just the other day, one passed.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then, you know,
Bartonella
so,
babe was one of them.
wow.
You
And
familiar
it's
with
her.
Bartonella babe, but
Yeah, it's horrifically sad, but
it
more
is.
often than not, it actually just ends up the precursor to another element such as
It
cancer
does.
that ends up taking their lives too.
It
Because when
does.
the
Yeah.
immune system is suppressed and there's inflammation throughout the body, it's a
Hmm.
perfect grounds for things in this toxic society to just really ramp up.
Yeah. And
So,
that's, you mentioned inflammation. That's another thing I kind of, not only through herbs and whatnot, but also taking a different approach to your surroundings.
yes.
Grounding, I started waking up and going outside and getting 20 minutes of sunlight every morning as much as I could. I started spending a lot of time with my feet barefoot in the grass, trying to let nature just, you know, help me heal, because our body actually requires these things. Grounding reduces inflammation. It's scientifically proven, as much as people don't want to admit it. That all this,
It's
witchcraft stuff can help you.
indisputable. There's like four different scientific angles you could see. Since we're visual creatures, just simply look up grounding and thermal imaging. It'll show
Yes,
the
exactly.
inflammation just disappearing. Yes.
Exactly. Go put your feet in the grass. It's
Yeah.
it's some things as simple as that I started doing, as well as a brain rewiring that kind of pushed me to where I'm at right now. And taking
Right.
time for myself, getting plenty of good, organic, healthy food, like fueling my
Yeah.
body. That you are what you eat. And if you're fueling yourself with hamburgers and fast food and gluten and whatnot, like, your body's
Yeah.
gonna feel it. It's the brain gut connection,
Yes.
and healing lies a lot in your gut for sure. And
100%. Some of that brain rewiring, I mean, yours seemed like a shorter window there, but I know for some that, day back to childhood, things of that nature, we have like these just emotional traumas and
yeah,
things that Lyme, like life situation that Lyme magnifies. It's almost
yeah,
like it knows how to ramp up that emotional to its
absolutely.
benefit and your detriment.
Uh-huh.
So you end up like, it's really hard because now it's like on a spiritual, psychological, and emotional level,
Lying. Yeah.
addressing as you're addressing a physical ailment, you're needing to address the physical, yeah, emotional, spiritual, all it's encompassed. And the more you can kind of work on all those, like you're leading yourself up more so for success, but you got to
Yes.
let go. And for me, it's just giving over to God. And that was, that,
Hmm.
to me, the singular greatest gift I experienced, because once I did that, like just great blessing, great peace.
Yeah.
Everything was gonna be okay. And I wasn't walking with all that weight, all that poison. And then I was able to shift more so into this positive mindset and seeing a bigger picture of, you know what, we are all visiting here. And it led me on a path where, if I question, if I didn't have this horrific disease, would I have come to these realizations in this
Yeah.
life? Because
You're right.
we
Absolutely.
get so wrapped up in the materialistic things of this material
Hmm.
world, and we tend to live like, as I now view, really meaningless, like squirrels, just kind of lives,
Uh-huh.
versus, dang it, we're visiting and I want to maximize. And it boils down to, like, why am I here? What is my purpose?
Compass.
And now it's all about genuine connection. It's all about helping out strangers, neighbors, loved ones, i- in my eyes, all of God's children,
Hmm.
in whatever manner I can. And then
Yeah.
it becomes extremely fulfilling and rewiring in this sense. It's, I can't even articulate and put into
Yeah.
words.
It's almost hard to say, but when you start getting to the light of everything, it's almost like Lyme is a blessing in disguise. And I know that, like I said, that's hard to say
for
because
someone in the midst of the throw.
yes,
Yeah.
it's exactly. And someone in the midst, that's kind of like the furthest thing they want to hear at the moment. But when you start getting to like where I'm at now, finally, your purpose it starts to show. And
Yes.
it's you dove so deep like into your childhood trauma. Like you're
Yeah.
right when you say Lyme disease really brings forth a lot of that stuff. And
Yes.
even like in your situation with the mold and whatnot, if you have like a mold toxicity or
Yep.
whatnot, it brings forth not only physical, emotional, mental, all that stuff, but it's a whole slew of things, and you
Yeah.
almost have to address them one at a time and
Yes.
get to the root of each of them before you can
You're right.
really. It's mind over body, and that it takes you on a whole other level. And then when you start to come out of it, you start to have a better appreciation for what you've gone through, what you've learned through it all. You
Right.
know, now I feel I have a lot of people that come to me with questions on Lyme disease and how to get better and who to see and what to do. And it's definitely given me a sort of purpose as well to
Yes.
feel like I'm helping in a way that I didn't have when I started all of this. You know, I
Well, in a huge way, it seems as
Mhm.
though it set you on a whole other path in your life now, and you're kind of getting to
You're
the
right.
root of how you enjoyed like your foraging, things like that. Let's shift into this whole herbal.
Yeah.
I mean, I could let you make the announcement if you
Yeah,
want,
I mean,
but
it's still a work in progress. I've kind of taken a little caution to being out in the woods now because of everything I went through. Now I completely load up on clothes with permethrin infused in it, like just tick spray galore. But yeah, I through this entire journey and already being into and having a passion for medicinal plants and mushrooms and whatnot, and then learning about all of this herbal stuff with Lyme and what helps what and what people rely on for stuff. It's kind of taken this to a whole thing for me. Like now, you can find me on Etsy, but I have an herbal company that is sourced by me, made by me, and it is sourced in the mountains of the Appalachian Mountains. My company is called Appalachian Remedy Co.
oh,
And like
cool.
I said, you can find me on Etsy. I do non-toxic because that is a huge thing for Lyme disease too. You know, your body
Yeah.
reacts to so many different toxins differently than when it did prior. And I know you've been dealing with this for many, many years, but for me going from perfectly healthy 1 year and then
Getting
down and out,
hit as
getting
hard as
hit
you
so
did, as
hard,
quick as you did.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's
it's kind of unique.
it's definitely a different perspective in the way that I notice how things affect me now versus then.
Right.
And I can honestly say like a lot of these daily toxins in your house where, you know, even if it's just laundry detergent or the air fresheners that you use, the plugins or
Yes.
whatever, your body reacts so differently. And it proves to you that this stuff is toxic and it can have an
Yes.
effect on your overall health. And that's kind of a big thing with Appalachian Remedy Co. that I deal with is not only like sourcing these non-toxic herbal, I guess you could say, what's the word for uh, other options, I guess, than the daily toxin stuff that you deal with every day. So I make like a non-toxic zinc sunscreen, and I
That's
do batches
awesome.
of fire cider, and I know I was telling you earlier the Japanese knotweed, which is a huge
Yes.
invasive plant actually in Pennsylvania. I am harvesting their root system now to
Wow.
make a tincture for people like myself that relied on Japanese knotweed through my whole healing process.
Yeah. I'm still
There's
taking
just
it
so
now.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're still taking it. Absolutely, I still take it too. I take just for precautions. I'm still taking my herbal stuff. I probably will be for at least another year, just to make sure nothing comes back. But so I do a lot of that stuff, and like I don't have too many options available on my Etsy store. I'm still in the process of, stuff is being made at the moment.
That's where we need to, because I guess if you're on Etsy, you're not confined to just the state. So all over
worldwide, I ship worldwide. Absolutely.
Worldwide. So even the Canadians.
Yeah. Canada, I've got friends in the UK who have reached out to me for Lyme disease help and babesia help. I ship stuff everywhere.
Well, that's perfect because
Korea,
we have listeners in the UK.
Yeah. All right. So reach out to me. It's definitely a little added cost to ship internationally.
Right.
I'll help any way they can. If anyone wants to message me and tell me that they heard about Appalachian Remedy Co. like through your podcast, I'll gladly give someone, let's 20% off if they want to do that.
Wow.
I'll send them a link if they heard it through, UNMUZZLED chat. I'll give them 20% off. But they can like and follow my store and stay updated with when new things are released, like the Japanese knotweed tinctures that are going to be coming out. I have cat's claw that'll be listed here shortly.
Amazing.
Got a lot of stuff brewing. I'd make a lot of salves and lotions, magnesium sprays. Like I do all of that stuff. So
it's definitely that's so huge.
It is.
It's sourcing.
Yes.
Sourcing from our information, from our food, from our water, from our supplements. And this right here is an amazing call to action for the listeners. Not only could this end up being the pure form or maybe the most affordable, I don't know, potential solutions for some people, but this is how we really support one another, is seemingly the world's crumbling around us and creating an alternate economy and boosting each other up, helping each other out in these trying times. Great blessings for everyone.
And that's another reason I started this company, is because financially, you know how it is with your treatments for Lyme disease. I was struggling, and I felt, it's time to bring my passion to the people and to try to better support myself through everything I was going through. So that's it's helped a lot. Not as much so as, I haven't had quite the following because I don't really have the social medias and whatnot, but it's a work in progress. So I'm hoping that,
it's a tough one. I'll admit, I went from none of them to pretty much all of them. Just evil uses this space very effectively. So I view it's the only way we're going to fight fire with fire and really get back ground. So I thank God for free speech platforms such as Rumble and these podcast apps, because we need to get more people on and listening to the podcast realm. There's extreme value, because where else are they getting the information? From their doctors?
No.
Corrupted. From the news? Corrupted. From Hollywood? Corrupted. From the government? Corrupted. From the health organizations? Corrupted. And there's nothing conspiratorial about it. They themselves are the ones fulfilling the conspiracies they are projecting on the world. They are the propagandists, and you choose it. But the pandemic was, in my eyes, the smoking gun that evil overextended its hand, and it's just clear. It exposed so much to us that are willing to grasp it. My concern is that so many have Lyme. So many have been demoralized. So many have been poisoned and diminished and sickened to where, think about it. We're not even showing up and calling for accountability after all these talking heads, safe and effective, and tried doing all these things. And now you could see that shot in and of itself was a bioweapon. And so it just becomes proof to me that more of us have Lyme, more of us have work to do. Our
Yeah.
lights have been dimmed,
Yep.
and that's the beautiful thing. And I believe the blessing we've experienced with this horrific disease. So for any of those that are struggling in the depths, just know you champion, you warrior this, you're now gonna be more so on a leading edge than even the mass populace, because you will eventually detoxify all these Lyme and all these other things along with it, to where
Hmm.
you're now, it's interesting, you end up in a place where you are fulfilling your purpose here. You're tapping into like the spiritual experience and everything on levels that, like, it's been intentionally taken away from the
Yeah.
masses. It's
Yeah.
wild.
It
It's hard to
is.
explain. You
It
just
is.
got to experience for yourself.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I
Wow.
would. I don't wish this upon anybody, but yeah, if you're going through it, then
Right.
yeah, you used to look at people who are spiritually intertwined and emotionally and whatnot as like the hippies and they're crazy or whatnot. But I am glad to say that I'm one of those people. It takes everything to a whole other level. It takes life to a whole other level of
Right.
appreciation. So
And that's just the thing too. We'll never know it all in this existence. So to continue that pursuit,
yeah,
always stay meek, always stay
yeah,
humble, always stay in the light of love. And,
yes,
we're all going to fall short. We got to understand that. So we got to cut ourselves some grace and not continually fall in the depths of those pits of despair.
hmm,
And it's just a forever work, but it's beautiful. And I know as communities we can help each other
yes,
from falling in those pits and really boosting up and creating the momentum we need in the right arenas. And the more we get on board and taking their health truly serious, like more people in their genius, their gifts,
uh huh,
part of the community, like, are gonna, it's just gonna be a lot of blessing. And I it's just whether we right this ship with this country, this world, I find it irrelevant that we do what we can. But dare I say, enough of us do just this, it would right the ship.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
well,
agree.
you're gonna need to send me all these awesome links, social medias to
You got
your
it.
Etsy, your company, whatever.
Absolutely.
We'll plug all the things. And I like how you shout out to mom there assisting you. You shout out to your boyfriend. Sounds like he's a
Yes,
wonderful man that
he
has
is. He
seen
was
you
the
through a really
biggest.
tough time.
Yeah, if you talk about support systems, and it is absolutely huge. And thankfully, it's hard to explain how you're feeling and what you're going through,
Right.
because without someone actually feeling it themselves, they don't fully understand. But he tried and he was there for everything, and that was, he was my witness through all of these, bullshit doctors and whatnot.
Wow.
So without him, it would be difficult. It would have been very difficult. So I feel for people who, you know, don't have that at home support, but at the same time, like you and I met through that Lyme disease support group page. They helped me through so much. I owe a lot of my direction from them. So if someone's out there suffering and don't know where to go, start by joining those Facebook groups, and you might
100%.
even want to post that link, on your page or whatnot for them to join in. So
Yeah.
yeah, the support was huge. Absolutely.
Wow. Well, Kelsey, we really appreciate you joining us here today on a muzzle chat. If there's anything
Yeah.
we missed and you think futuristically, oh wow, and your company starts growing and you have more things to offer, any news, we'd love to, have you back. We could cover more things.
Yeah.
It's something we're obviously going to show up as much as we can until we're there, right?
Yeah.
Until we
And
have the solutions. And I mean, but there's just always work to be had. I believe you brought a lot of light and solutions and hope
Yeah.
for folks that
I
are
hope so.
struggling, that you can beat this dang thing.
Yeah.
Everyone's path's going to be a little different. Are you going to have as fast of a turnaround as Kelsey here? Odds are, if you had it for longer, more than likely it's just going to take longer. It
It's
just
gonna
makes
take longer, of
sense.
course. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And I was one of the lucky few that found the tick. So I was fortunate, but it was still, yeah, it was still a long journey. Some days I thought I was gonna die. It was a rough.
Right.
So
Well,
definitely,
it's been honed in on where it's not just ticks, folks. All
yeah,
biting insects now have been connected to this spiral kete. Wrap your head around that. You
yeah.
even think about them flying missile freaking mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes.
Yes,
Hmm.
you can get it from a mosquito.
Yeah.
So even though it's more prevalent, is that how you say? More common in certain states, the reality in America is in all 50 states,
Hmm.
over 8 different countries. It's all over the world, and it's
All
true
over.
epidemic levels. And we must do something about this.
Yeah.
We must actually even start calling for our local officials and state officials to acknowledging and recognizing and giving us remedies and financial assistance, all sorts of things
Yeah.
to create solutions. That should be part of, we should stand up individuals that are willing to take political positions or positions, I don't know, in office that
Yeah.
will advocate on behalf of us Lyme. That's actually what kind of what it took dating back to cancer 20, 30 years ago, when it wasn't recognized by the medical industry worldwide. It wasn't covered by insurance. So look
Hmm.
at it now. It was through
Yeah.
awareness, it was through all these means that now finally look at the progress that's been made there. But even then, cancer, we got to move the needle more even with cancer, because Western medicine only acknowledges treatments that are more profitable
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
solution based. That's
That's.
where so many cancer patients that are truly getting healed,
Hmm.
like where Western medicine pretty much chalks them up, like get your fares and orders, are completely being cured and getting their cancers in a completely remissive state through alternate means. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
no secret. And I supposedly we're not supposed to say the C word, but legit, I've heard individuals, myself, and it was other than Western medicine, and they knew if they went through one more chemo treatment, they wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
So they listened to their gut, they listened to their God, and they got directed to solutions that healed them.
Hmm.
So, well, I suppose with that we could wrap up. Any other burning
Yeah.
desires?
No, no, I think we covered a lot of it. And, I want to
Okay.
say thank you for having me on Unmuzzled Chat. Like it's been such an honor to talk to you, James. And I'd hope to come back someday and share, what else that we got. If, any
Fantastic.
news and stuff. So,
No, pleasure is all ours, Kelsey. Thank you.
yeah, of course.
We're gonna go ahead and plug some of our affiliates, and then we'll wrap up, and we'll have a little bit of an after chat. So,
Okay.
listeners, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to Kelsey. My goodness, what a warrior! What strength! What clarity! What spiritual enlightenment! I hope this fires you up. It fires me up every time I see someone, that even brings me a side note. I'm going to have to connect you with Tanya, in fact. So she's got a podcast, Lyme and Beyond with Tanya. And I'm not there yet, Kelsey. I'm not healed enough to guest on her platform,
Oh
but I'm
no,
working on
we're
it.
working on it.
You, my friend,
Keep that positive attitude.
I believe you're there, and I'd imagine she would be thrilled to have you as well to share your story.
Okay.
So
I
we
will
could
reach
just
out to her.
continue this momentum. So, listeners, on another note, there's calls to action we can do that can help shift the direction this country is going in, and we must stop funding our enemies. And we have a solution regarding our mobile providers. We could put money towards Patriot Mobile, which is the only Christian conservative mobile network available out there that is fighting on behalf of our freedoms, our veterans, and so many other things. You could check out the webpage and all the things that they're engaged in. The millions of dollars now they're actually spending to our benefit. It's it's amazing. We must get behind companies like this that share the same morals and values. It's all about our clicks, views, likes, and dollar bills. We could vote every single day with every one of those. And if we're mindful of it, that, my friends, is how we're going to shift this tide. So, Patriot Mobile, check them out today. If you call them, mention Unmuzzled Chat, click the link below. We'll mention EMP Shield. It's important we get prepared. It's the best dollar for dollar preparedness in my eyes any one of you can make. You're still getting $50 off every single one of their products. So click the link below, order yours today, at least one minimally for each of your vehicles, or one vehicle per family. Now, regarding health, we went over a lot of that in this episode. I attribute a lot of my breakthrough, as I've mentioned, to bond charge and the infrared sauna blanket. It just magnifies the body's natural ways of detoxifying these metals, these toxins, these poisons in our body. You get 15% off all their products. That's over $100 off their infrared sauna blanket. Be sure to check them out. Click the link below, and you can, in fact, enhance that detoxifying with the Masterpiece tincture. It's a miracle tincture. It eradicates all the metals, heavy metals, and forever chemicals. So you could look into the data, the science, everything. Just click the link below. Lastly, we'll mention Unchained Wellness Clinic. They've been a godsend for so many, and I can only imagine how many more they're going to serve and help in this life. And we have now 2 episodes out. You want to know more in depth about what they provide, just watch those episodes. That being said, support us by sharing this content. We appreciate all you have done. If you feel called to help keep the lights on, we have the Buy Me a Coffee link, the Venmo, the Cash App, even the GoFundMe. Any amount will ensure that we're able to continue doing what we're doing. And we couldn't do it without you. So we appreciate, we honor all you listeners and all you do. With that, God bless you. God bless America. Till next time, take care.